school. She was bummed that she wasn't there for Wacky Wednesday. And I'll be honest, we have had plenty Spirit Weeks and Wacky Wednesdays up until that point where when my kids left for school, I wasn't thinking, man, I'd really love to get Wacky on Wednesday. However, I call it a spiritual prompting, whether it's God or an angel or a saint or something wiser than me would speak to me or give me, not even really speak to me so that I would convey it with my own words. Sometimes I was thinking one thing and I would say something else and I would wonder where it even came from because it wasn't what I was thinking, but these words came out of my mouth. This particular day, after we'd been in the hospital for 3 months, I hadn't seen a light in her eye, a smile on her face. Pretty much the picture that the doctors had painted for us had become reality. They said she wouldn't feel like fighting, she wouldn't want to live, she would be ready to give up, and you know, the chemo and the radiation was going to be extremely difficult on her, and it had been. And so I just blurted out, we could create a Wacky Wednesday wherever we are. Do you want us to create our own Wacky Wednesday? And that light came back like that, and she smiled. And she took my eyebrow pencil, and she blacked out my tooth. She gave me a unibrow. I had the hair in the front where I could make ponytails, or she could make ponytails for me. Dressed me ridiculously. My husband wouldn't get off the elevator in the hospital with me. He didn't want people to know that we were together. And just by choosing to create a Wacky Wednesday, we were distracted to create smiles with silliness, and we weren't so focused on the sickness and the sadness and the seriousness and the stress. And so I've been on a mission. I would like to get Wacky Wednesdays into children's hospitals. It's not really been embraced yet. It's a bit different than what they're used to. They're not really sure what to think about it yet. And so because I am persistent and do give more, I think the whole world needs Wacky Wednesday. I think we're all sick because of our stress. I know we are. And that we could lighten up one day a week and not be focused on the stress, but could create smiles with silliness. And a lot of Wednesdays, I don't feel like doing it for myself. But as servant leaders and us being like Christ, or trying to emulate Christ, we'll do things not for ourselves, but for the sake of others. And when Wacky Wednesdays, when I don't feel like doing it, and this week was a particular one because it was the anniversary of her relapse, I knew where to go to find the strength to give more when I feel like giving up. And I wanted to, this whole theme on Wednesday, because I never know, I don't know what I'm going to say when I come present. I don't know on Wacky Wednesday what I'm going to wear. I have a closet full of wacky stuff, and it'll start with one thing, and it kind of like ends up being the theme for that day, and I just roll with it. It might, if there's a game day for my kids, they know that I'm wacky enough that I'm going to come to a game and be wacky, and they're okay with it, and they support me on that. So it might be their team colors or something. This particular Wednesday, the whole thought of being a hero was what I want to be a hero the way that Janae was a hero, the way that Janae continues to be a hero, the way that I can be a hero. We all can choose to be a hero. People are looking at you and seeing when you, and you don't know who they are, but you're an example. And they're looking to see if you can climb your mountain successfully to give them hope to climb theirs. And so I know that's what, as a mom who's let go of a child, that people can't even sometimes measure or think they have no mountain to measure to that. They're looking to me for inspiration and hope, and I can give it to them by continually climbing my mountain. And Wednesday, I was given the perfect opportunity to climb, and climb hard when I didn't feel necessarily really strong. So I wrapped up, I put my cape on, I had a superhero cape, I had some glasses, and I just went with this whole hero theme, and went out and experienced the most amazing Wacky Wednesday ever. I got what I call hugs from heaven all day long. And the interesting thing about through the day, because on Wacky Wednesday, especially in the afternoon, I can start to get tired and just be ready to call it a day and go home to the Batman cave or whatever and feel like my job is done. And all day, I kept talking myself out of going to one more place. I call it a whack attack when I just shock people. It might be a TJ Maxx for a return, which is what it was this Wednesday. I had some things to return. I sat out in the car. Do I really want to go in and expose myself to the looks, knowing that I'm not going to get to explain my story? It's not about that. I'm tired. Just do it tomorrow. And know that prompting was there. Just go ahead and do it. And the two girls that were working at the cashier table that day, as soon as I walked in, one said, "I've heard Wacky Wednesday commercials on Way FM." Well, that was a boost for my spiritual tank. And the other one said, "You know, we used to do Wacky Wednesdays at school." And I'm in my head, as she's saying that, thinking, did she go to Silver Creek or she go to school where they do Wacky Wednesdays? And then she said, "At Prosser." And I grinned really big and I said, "You know, I spoke at Prosser." She said, "I was a nurse. I heard you 3 years ago." And so that was fuel for me to be encouraged, you know, not to give up, that there is a difference being made. And it may not be the vision that I have or the vision that God's put in my heart just yet, but not to give up, not to quit, and just to trust. And, you know, relationship with God and faith is that you trust, even when you can't see the big picture. Maybe you're not getting the evidence that you want in you're feeling His presence or in the results that you would like to see and feel. just trust that He is there and He's with you. And at some point, whether it's in this lifetime or the next, you're going to be able to look back and see what it was all for, and what all was coming together, in that. I shared this week, I got to drive to Lexington a couple days ago and give a presentation, and see, I get to go with this message all over the place. This was the Kentucky Government Department of Corrections, and these people deal with offenders and are working with them as they try to transition them back into society. And I guess things have been dumped on them more and more and more over the years without a raise, and they're dealing with this environment that's not necessarily easy. And I got to go deliver this message to them on how you continually are filling your fuel, you're finding fuel for your tank, how you're using tools to allow you to propel forward, how you're seeing faith, or if you feel like life is being unfair, and who doesn't? Like, in our humanness, we all can sit into that victim mode and poor pitiful me, and this isn't fair. But how do you shift or transition into being a victim and not maybe seeing what's fair now? One of the things that I use is to know that how I'm not rewarded here, God's going to reward me there. And so sometimes it's different. Sometimes it's a little light to me if somebody's abrasive in the way that they speak to me, or they're not showing appreciation for something I've done. I might just kind of chuckle in my head and go, well, my halo wattage just went up. Or I may just thank God for adding a room to my mansion, or that there's another jewel for my crown, or whatever metaphor it is that allows you to get over that thing that just doesn't feel like it's fair, or like you're not being valued, not being appreciated, or that you don't matter, because you do. And that's another thing that in this world, in this life, that chatter that you really just want to shift away from and not listen to, is that you don't matter, or that you're not as valuable as the next person, or that what you're doing doesn't count. The one thing, as a perfectionist, every time I watch that video, I cringe when it shows me in a bathing suit, because I especially don't want girls to think that it's all about body image, and I don't want to feed that perception of what the world's doing. And even at 35, 40 years old, I was still in that. That was my diversion. I'm not discounting it was important for me. The whole thing with that fitness part in that video is I was a binge eater. I was a stressed, emotional eater. And I was determined to tie a knot at the end of the rope and hang on and not do what I was told was going to happen, because I couldn't allow that to happen for me to serve Janae and my family in the way that I needed. Because when we consulted with the hospital going into this Cincinnati stay away from home, I would be in and out of Ronald McDonald. I was told during the consultation to expect to gain 30 or 40 pounds, if that's what happened. That wasn't a death sentence, but that's not what I needed to hear. Because that's basically, as a kind of, I guess, like a food addict, if I were an alcoholic or a drug addict, that'd be like sitting a bottle right here and say, you're going to need that, go ahead, everybody else does. I didn't want to hear that, and I didn't want that to be the possibility in the picture that was painted in the world's report, that it was okay to go ahead and let yourself go. Don't do what's right for your body and what God wants for your health. Go ahead and lose yourself in the food with the emotions, because that's what everybody does, and it's okay. I didn't need that ticket. And I wanted to be the opposite. I wanted to give a different report. And so when I felt like eating the cake or the pizza that was in the family lounge, I would work out. And that I was more focused to create a healthy body, and that was my diversion then. That is not the focus that I want to present. A year ago, my plan was to grow my hair. I was going to grow my hair out long. I hadn't had long hair in a long time, and I thought, I'm going to grow my hair out. It's an interesting thing about your plan and God's plan sometimes, because I shaved my head. I shaved it all off in March. I was just getting to a point where it was long, and I could kind of figure out what I was going to do with it after this weird, awkward transition of going from a shorter style to long, when I heard God calling me first to let go of the dye, which was interesting, because the world's report is aging gracefully as dye and Botox and plastic surgery, and try to keep this death grip on your youth and to stay looking young. That's the whole report. You want to look young. You want to look younger than you are. And if that's where you are, you are young, so maybe to the adults. If that's where you are, that's okay. I'm not guilting and shaming anybody. I'm just saying, listen to what that voice is saying to you. And drown out what the world's report is, even if it's the people that you love. Because my family was the most brutal about me not dyeing my hair. As a matter of fact, on my birthday, they were encouraging me to not let myself go. I was too young to let myself go. And it hurt, but at the same time, I heard a voice speak, come out. Well, the voice just said, I'm not letting myself go. I let go of a color of hair. I'm like more than my roots, and now it's like a family joke that I'm more than my roots. They, tease me. She's more than her roots. She's more than her hair. My hair is just the bow on the package. Somebody could give you, at some point in your life when you're given an engagement ring, it could be presented in a very beautiful, amazing package. But if your mate is not somebody that goes to that and they slip you a paper bag and you find out that ring, are you going to care how it was wrapped or how it's packaged? It's about the gift in the center, right? Each one of us are about the gift of God that's in the center of us. It's not about how it's wrapped in our package, but our World's Report is to focus on the package and the attractiveness of it and not the gift on the inside. That's why I report that leukemia is a very painful, unattractive package. But I'm not sorry for it. I found the gift of God's grace in the center of it that's made me a completely different person. Do I miss Janae's physical presence and sharing life with her? Absolutely. I cannot describe to you how much I miss her. However, as a prospective trainer, I can focus on everything that I've gained and everything that she's gained. I used to say that she paid a price, but now I know that she's earned her reward. It's a completely different thing. So an analogy that came to me this week that I really want to use more in my presentations because I think people can relate to them so well is when you're in the car and you hear a song that you don't like, or it's a genre or something that really doesn't fit, it takes the smallest little shift on that dial to hear a new song. A completely different song. And this perspective, whether it's, that this person treating you very cruelly is just allowing your halo when you get to heaven to shine that much brighter, that's just enough shift that you can be playing and hearing a whole new song than what's being sung to you by somebody else in the World's Report and God's Report. The get to, instead of the have to, is one little shift on that dial that will allow you to play the song of a victor instead of the song of a victim. Because it's always a two-sided coin. You can choose to host the pity party and stay in this, oh, poor, pitiful me, what about me? Or you can switch to do like Jesus did and how I feel like Janae was for me. I color my Jesus with skin because I got to see in real life with my eyes and feel what living like Christ is and being selfless. Janae wasn't about herself, only from that diagnosis forward. She'd been bullied in middle school and really was in a victim mode, and it is poor, pitiful me life is stuck in how she felt for herself. And the diagnosis is really, and that 3-year journey, what allowed her spirit to rise and it to be healed, and then it was too late for her body to catch up. So, that's okay, because I know Romans 8:28 that God works good in all things, and He certainly is in the journey that Janae had and in the pain that we shared in creating something that's really celebratory and not something that, causes us to hurt. So I'm going to read this excerpt because this is the other thing that I want to encourage you. It gives me great joy to come share my story. That every one of you have a story that's as important as the one that I'm sharing. Whatever you can pull from what I'm saying that has worked in my story, pull it and work it in yours, because you're your own hero and you're the own main character in the movie that you're creating of your life. And listen to that internal voice. Listen to that instinct, your gut, because that is God. It doesn't really, I said it, I don't know if it's Janae or my grandmother and Angel say, all of it is God. God is right there and whispering to you. And sometimes it's going to sound like the craziest thing in the world to do. But when you leap in faith and do it, it'll be amazing what you get to experience, because this book is one of those things. I had not been writing through her 2.5 years of chemo. But on the day that she relapsed, that internal voice asked me to sit down and write. And it came every day. Some days I didn't feel like writing. I didn't feel like I had something encouraging to share on Caring Bridge or on a public social, site. But it would not go away as prompting until I would sit down and write. And the words that God would bring and flow through me to write not only encouraged me, but encouraged so many other people. So then after Janae passed, I published it into this book. And it's basically a memoir. And I wrote a blog just this week. It's pasted on my Facebook page called Almanac of My Soul. And this is kind of like the almanac for me. Like there are certain annual events that happen. There are predictions that would come with them. There is a shadow that, an eclipse that's created with the shadow of the past passing through the present. But it's temporary, Follow those things, and the more you develop that faith and that instinctive step, the more steps that you will take in faith, and the more you'll be encouraged by the presence of God that's around you, and the guidance that's there with you so that you never feel alone, because you're not ever alone even when you feel like it. So this is from September 7th on 2007. We are taking this one day at a time. After much reflection, I am feeling good this morning. Wherever this journey is taking us, I'm ready. We don't know if chemo starts Monday, but I almost hope that it is Monday. It is of utmost importance to begin the attack on leukemia, so I dread the side effects of chemo, and the doctor said it won't affect her odds if we end up starting on Monday. It's critical that we get her into remission, and once we do, and we found a bone match donor for her, we will give her a 50% chance of survival. Of course, we're not focused on the percentages. That would be like watching the scoreboard. What's on paper doesn't matter. All that does is the will of God. We are watching the coach, and he is bigger than any statistic. Okay, this is one of these really cool, magnificent, miraculous details, because throughout this journey, I spoke of keeping our eyes on the head coach. Not paying attention to the opponent, because a lot of people will talk about the enemy's attack, or even the people on our team. The doctors might be distracting with their statistics or their eyes on the scoreboard, and they may be reporting what the score is. And really, if you just keep your eyes on the head coach, like even professional ball players, don't swing at a bat, don't throw a pitch, don't run a play, even though they could, even though they're professionals at what they do, they look to their coach for the sign first. We look to God for the sign and wait for discernment first. And that whole analogy came to me to build on because I'm friends with Kelly Falcone and her daughter right here, and I always get them mixed up. If it's Abby, is it Abby there, the blonde? Because that's Bren Ware.
Oh, the shopping, yeah.
Yes, and it's either Abby, and I hate one of the Falcone daughters, because I get mixed up, and it's probably the one in the picture right there that's shopping at Walmart. Her mom had told me that her daughter had just hit like her first home run, and her uncle was bummed he wasn't there to see it, and he was asking her all about it, and she's, where did you hit the ball? And she's like, I don't know. I just kept watching the coach. I just kept running and watching the coach until I ran across home plate. We don't really need to know all the details, really. If we just keep watching the coach, he's going to cause us to score in the way that he wants us to. And for me to read that about the head coach and the picture right there for these details, if you start looking for them in the tiniest little miracles, and when Janae says, oh, I love how this is all like pulling together in here. When she says her favorite thing, I wasn't in the room with her when she was being interviewed for that. So to have her saying those things about me, answering questions that I would have never asked her, is such fuel for my spirit. The first time that I saw it, though, and I was waiting for one of her favorite things, and when she's looking away, I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm still, I was expecting a completely different answer than God's miracles. I think it's the sweetest thing, and that should be one of our favorite things. And we can experience God in very big, profound, undeniable miracles, or we can in the small details, because God is in the details. And I got to experience them very profoundly on Wednesday, and I'm grateful that they're continuing today, because whether I'm conveying how profound that is to me, all these little pieces that come together, it's really cool. So I need to wrap it up, and as I do, I want to propose or offer, if you want to collaborate on projects, I don't know what your agenda looks like as far as who you're affiliated with or what you're working with. But I brought these to share with everybody because lots of times it's the youth. I don't have an active board. I'm so impressed by what you're doing with Miles for Mary Miracles, because it is allowing you to grow so quickly and have much more of an impact. I still at this point am pretty much a mother on a mission. It's a mission of like one person. I've tried to recruit people, and it's not worked, because people's hearts and passion got to be there for them to dig in with me and go through the trenches and really be a working, active board. And you have that here. I don't have that yet, and it's okay. That's why I'm trusting that in God's timing, we come together and do something. But what's really incredible about youth and what they will do to find a solution or a way to make a difference when it appears there isn't one right before them is Anna Perkins is like 12 years old, and she's in a Girl Scout troop, and they have these silver awards. I don't know anything about the criteria of them, but she had contacted me wanting to do Wacky Wednesday and go visit at the hospital. Well, I knew the hospital's not really, for one, at a place that they're ready to embrace Wacky Wednesdays, where it's a scheduled thing, where when volunteers contact me, I do have people that volunteer. I don't want to have a date of something to give them, other than the 1 week in June that we do a special Wack Attack and special Wacky Wednesday to celebrate Janae's heavenly birthday. Because I don't call her passing, I call her heavenly birthday. The kids all the time wanted to participate, and they're not allowed to visit at the hospital, especially on the cancer unit. If you're under 18, because their immunity is compressed and germs, and they're trying to protect the kids, a lot of the younger kids are not allowed to be involved in a volunteer activity. And so Anna wasn't ready to stop at that. She came up with this silver project that would fit the criteria of the project, but contribute to kids with cancer and Wacky Wednesday. So she decided to create a joke book to help kids laugh and for me to distribute them when I'm doing Wacky Wednesday. And she scheduled a photo shoot with her troupe and another troupe, and I met them on a Wednesday. We had a Wacky Wednesday photo shoot, and she brought some props that some of the props went along with the joke. I mean, like there's one, if I get it right, why do sharks eat clowns? And it's because they taste funny, or something like that. And so she brought shark heads and some clown outfits, and so the sharks like chasing the clown to go along with that joke. It's really cute. And then she found a printer to donate the printing service of the books, and printed enough for me to take to the cancer camps this summer. That when I went and visited them and did Wacky Wednesday with the cancer kids at summer camp, I was able to give them this book. So I brought one for each one of you just because we had an excess and you might get a kick out of them, and it might be something, you could create your own Wacky Wednesday project, a fundraiser for We Get To doing Wacky Wednesday, or I don't know, those are just some ideas that if you're looking for new things to do and you have been touched by this and want to help me grow, I certainly know we can do more together than we do by ourselves, and I get to act like a child or act more youthful when I'm hanging around the youth, and so, I love to be able to do that. This is a little fact sheet more about We Get To and Wacky Wednesdays if you want to take one of those. And just, stay in touch. I think I got everybody's phone numbers. I haven't got it really rolling yet, where you might get a couple texts a month with a We Get To. Let me just say, because I kind of ran right over that, start replacing your have-tos with get-tos. Like some of you may have, and you don't even know how conscious, or you're unconscious of the complaints that you say. Somebody said, I'm sure, they had to get up early to come to this. Some, I would love to think that you all are thrilled and love to come here, but maybe some of you, your parents or somebody, you didn't maybe feel like coming and you thought you had to come. That may not be the case. I hope that's not the case. But if you did say that, to get to be here, to be a part of something that is so positive, so nurturing, and so God-filled, you turn your have to into a get to. I'm not going to go around the room and ask, but right now, whatever it is that you dread doing, whether it's today, this weekend, or this week, it may be something that you know is going to be uncomfortable. It may be something that's going to cause pain. It may just be something that you hate to do. Put yourself in your mind frame of how you would be grateful about that. Somebody would love to get to do what you're doing. Someday you won't be able to do the very thing that you're complaining about doing. And if that were now, embrace that you get to do it. Because Janae said, I get to have chemo. Now, who's going to say that? That's really hard. Matter of fact, that was a miracle that happened in the bathroom. She was getting sick from chemo. She said, I hate this. I wanted to cry. I hated it too. The words came out of my mouth. This is when we say we get to have chemo. How she didn't throw me out of the bathroom is by the grace of God. It's by being open to a perspective that we don't naturally have. Some people don't have a diagnosis to have hope for a cure. Some people have a diagnosis and still no hope for a cure. Some people don't have a hospital or insurance. We had all those things that gave us hope, and she got to have chemo. This picture right here is literally from the funeral. Because in my head, I kept hearing, I have to bury my baby. And was there anything wrong in that? No, that is a natural feeling. But I had 3 years in this classroom of perspective. I know the power of finding a get to when all you can hear is a have to. And I just want to say that the harder it is to say I get to, the more empowered you are. That's like going to, bench press 400 pounds. If you really don't want to say you get to, and you find a way to it. So I prayed, God, I can't find a get to in this, because I really feel like I'm having to bury my baby, and I'm really sad about it. That internal voice, as soon as I prayed for it, gave me the perspective, gave me that heavenly, godly perspective, that I got to release her hands into God's. I got to release her spirit into heaven. And only one woman got to do that, and it was her mom. Then I went from being sorrow-filled and doing like Dr. Seuss. I can find profound strength in Scripture, and I can find it in something like Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss says, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And that get to allow me to not cry because her life was over here, but to smile because it happened, and that her eternal life was beginning in heaven, and that I was going to be encouraged and have God and Janae with me as a result of that in a way that I would not have had if she had survived that illness. So I released a dove at her funeral to signify her spirit being born in heaven. And there was a journalist from the newspaper there because we had such amazing community support. And I was thinking about it on the way here, so I don't know if this is another project because it's never come up before. As I was going to bed last night, I kept smelling in my hands this scent that reminds me of Janae. She loved that Vanilla Noel, the Bath and Body Works, and she loved it, and she was using it like crazy before she passed. And as I was going to bed last night after I'd had this amazing week, I kept smelling my hands, and I don't know when I washed my hands or put anything on my hands. You know, so it's almost like Janae slathered them or something. I mean, I just kept going to bed going, where did I pick up this scent today? Like, and I kept, you know, and I was thinking of it on my way here this morning. About the scent of Janae, just kind of recalling these details and these miracles that happened. And there's only one other time of a scent that I really feel Janae or get this flashback, and it was when we stayed at the Vernon Manor. When she was discharged from the hospital, we weren't allowed to come home. We needed to stay very close to the hospital. And the Vernon is a very old. It's not even there anymore as a hotel, but